We're Jeff and Lisa, and in this video we're going to show you how we did this beautiful natural looking marble countertop for our van for about $100 using epoxy. So let's get into it. So today we're actually making the countertop for the kitchen galley.
Yep, we're excited. I'm excited.
Yep, and we're going to be doing this with epoxy. We're going to be pouring it. And it's a really inexpensive way to make a countertop. We'll do this whole thing for about $100 and it's gonna look amazing, right?
We did our whole kitchen in epoxy countertops to cover up our old yellowish, what was it? Was it corian? Corian.
Yeah. You can pour this over granite, over hard surfaces, over plywood, MDF. What are we going to be using here?
This is MDF.
Yep.
And it's primed with white.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
we cut this to fit the countertop, and then this piece right here is going to be the backsplash. You're just going to have about a 1-inch backsplash in the back to keep things from falling over the edge. We rounded the two front corners, and then we did with a router rounded all the way around. And you want to do that so that the epoxy can kind of flow over the edges easily. If you have a square edge, then it creates surface tension and the epoxy doesn't want to spill over the sides. And when it spills over the sides, it gives it a real natural look.
Right. So when this is cured and dried, it'll be really glassy, and then we'll let it cure for a few days, and then we will hone it down to a stone finish. So it'll be really nice in the van.
Yep. So what colors are we going to be doing?
So we're going to use a white base. And we're going to add in some gray tones. We have a dark gray here and we have a granite. So this is called a dirty pour. It's where you put all your colors together and then you pour them out. And as you pour them out, they just go wherever.
And when you're doing a pour like this, you want to make sure everything's level, because this epoxy is self-leveling, and the warmer it is, the more freely it runs. And it's pretty hot today. It's probably 85 in here in our garage.
It's cooled
right
off from
now.
100 though, so we're good.
So if it was tilted, all the epoxy eventually is going to run to one side. And so you want to make sure everything's really level. And then the reason we have this tape on the edge is we want to pour it and keep all of our kind of design in place for maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And once it starts to kind of gel a little bit, we'll take the tape off and let it run over the edges, right?
Right.
So we get our epoxy from Stone Coat Countertop. We've done a lot of projects with this and it works really well. So it comes in part A and B. Part A is actually the resin and part B is a hardener. And even though it has a hardener, it takes about 24 hours to set up. So we'll pour this first coat, which we call our color coat. We'll wait 24 hours and then we'll do a clear coat over the top. And then like Lisa said, once that starts to cure, we'll hone that down to a matte finish. So we're gonna start mixing here. This is about 2 feet wide by 5 feet long. So that's about 10 square feet. And so I wanna have about 5 ounces per square foot. So about 50 ounces is going to be enough. So I'm going to mix this, and you'll want to make sure that you mix it really accurately. So I'm going to use this bucket that has measurements, and I'm going to put 24 ounces of the part B first, and then 24 ounces of the part A. The reason you do it backwards is the part A is a lot thicker, and if you pour that in first and then pour your part B in, which is the thinner.
You mean A?
This thick stuff, yeah. If you no.
Sorry,
so if you pour, sorry, this is confusing. If you go with the thick stuff first, it's going to stick to the sides, and then you pour the thin stuff. It's just going to go in the middle, and then when you try to mix it, you're not going to be able to get the thick stuff off the sides. So you want to pour the part B in first, which is the more liquid, more runny, and then you pour the thick stuff into the middle of it, and then you get a better mix. It's really important that you get a really good mix on this, because if you don't, you'll end up with some soft spots that never cure. Okay, ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So this is going to be a super messy project. We always wear gloves and wear your oldest clothes, or like I'm wearing, I wear an apron over my clothes. There's no VOCs, so you don't have to wear a mask. But Jeff's gonna stir this up and get us going.
Right to that line, help me. You see how much thicker that is.
Keep going. Okay, that should be good.
Now you want to mix this for 2 minutes to make sure that you get everything really mixed well. So once it's about halfway, we're going to put a white dye in. This is a pigmented opaque dye. We're going to put that in to give it the white base. Now one thing I wanted to say about this, one thing I really like about these for vans is it's lightweight, you know, way lighter than a stone or a quartz, even lighter than a butcher block, because butcher block tops are pretty thick, like 1.5 inches thick. This is 3/4 inch MDF. The other thing I like about it is that it won't shatter. If you were in an accident, a quartz or stone, a countertop could shatter and be dangerous. And because this is wood and the epoxy is actually kind of almost a little bit of flex to it, it's very sturdy and rugged. So go ahead and dump some of the dye in. So you can tell if this has enough dye in it. If you pull it out, you don't see the wood, which that's pretty good. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna make our dirty pour bucket with this one. But what we're gonna do is we're going to first layer it. So I'm gonna make a little bit of the 2 colors of gray here, okay? So now we're gonna take this is the granite, which is a little bit lighter. So that's the granite, and then this is the dark gray. So you're gonna do these. So now what we wanna do is we're just gonna make our dirty pour bucket. And we're gonna put a little bit of the white for a base. And then go ahead and just pour a little bit and kind of swirl. Okay, that's good. Then we're gonna do a little bit of the white. Now a little bit of the dark one. So now, we're just gonna put some of this on here just to get it wet so that it flows evenly. So we just wanna kind of give this a wash.
Get your board wet.
All right, so now we got our bucket and we're just gonna pour this out. And the cool thing is it's just kind of like natural stone was liquid and floated and then hardens, and this is gonna kind of do the same thing. So we want to kind of just start here. And keep enough for our little, oh, I just poured a big chunk of it. Now what we'll do is we're just going to tilt this to get it where we want it, and also to make it just kind of look natural. It's nice when it's this hot because it flows pretty well. When it's cold, sometimes it's really a job to get this stuff where you want it.
That's what I was hoping for.
Now you just want to go around and make sure that it covered mainly all the corners and edges. Like this edge looks like it could use a little more. And it's going to move for at least a couple of hours, maybe even a little longer because it's so warm in here. And so it'll keep flowing, but you can see right along that edge, it's a little bit thin, so I'm just going to tilt it. And you can tilt it as much as you want to get whatever movement and look. You can kind of see how this grain, and it's very subtle, which is what we wanted, but you can kind of just see how it's just flowing just like natural rockwood. That's what we really love about this product, is you can get a really natural look with resin. If you wanted something more drastic, you could make, you know,
different colors,
veins and things like that. You can get really ornate with them, or you can keep it pretty simple, which is what we're gonna do here. So now that we got it kind of where we want, we're gonna heat it up with a torch, and that's just going to pop all the bubbles. You can see little bubbles kind of forming along the top, and just by going over it, sweeping over it with a torch is gonna pop all those bubbles so that it lays down really nicely. So we got it how we want it now. We're gonna let it sit for about probably an hour or so. We'll kind of check it and see how once it starts to gum up a little bit, then we'll pull this tape off and make it flow over the edges really nicely. And any kind of movement, any swirls or anything will just kind of flow over the edge and make it look pretty natural.
So after about an hour, we came back and we pulled the tape off, and it was just starting to thicken a little bit. And you can see here, you want to be really careful when you pull off the tape that you just don't touch the surface of the countertop. And then if you just kind of run your finger along the edge with a little bit of resin on it, it will kind of lubricate that edge so that the material starts to flow over it. And then you also want to kind of go underneath so that you kind of wipe up those drip marks.
It's been 24 hours now since we poured the countertop, and it's looking really good. It's all nice and hardened. It's not cured. It takes a couple of weeks for that. If you do the second pour, the clear coat in about 24 hours, you don't need to sand. If you wait longer than that and it starts to cure, then you do need to sand it with 220 grit sandpaper just to give it a better mechanical bond. But because we're just doing it 24 hours after, we're just gonna go ahead and pour it on. Now, like I said, this is about 10 square feet. This fly is gonna be a real problem if it gets into the, got it. This fly is gonna be a real problem if it gets into the epoxy after I pour it, so I'm glad I got that. So anyway, it's about 10 square feet. And on the dirty pour, you need more because you need more material on there because you got to rock it and move it and make it flow. With the clear coat, we're just going to go about 3 ounces per square foot, so about 30 ounces. I did about 5 ounces per square foot for the dirty pour. And after I pour this on, I'm going to use this 1/8 by 1/8 inch trowel and just trowel it on, and that just puts just enough material for it to kind of be the proper thickness and have enough material to flow over the edges and cover those. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix. I'm going to again just do a 1-to-1 mix. That fly is not quite done. There we go. So 1-to-1 mix. So I'm going to do, you know, a quart, so 32 ounces. So I'm going to do 16 and 16. And again, like I said, you always want to do the B first because it's thicker, and it's thinner. The A is the thicker stuff, so you want to pour that into the thinner material. So I'm going to do 16 ounces of this. Put it up here because this is more level. So there's 16 ounces of the B, and I'm going to do 16 ounces of the A. I'm going to mix it for 2 minutes, and I'll be ready to pour it on. All right, there we go. Got it nice and mixed. You can tell it's kind of turns to a milky color. Now I did not add any color to this, no tint, no pigment, no dye, because this is just strictly a clear coat. It's for protection. And then after it cures in about 2 weeks, we're gonna hone it. And we'll do the separate video on that. Basically, we'll start with like a 150 grit sandpaper and sand it, and then go to 220 and 300 and 400, 600, 800, and then we'll use sanding pads all the way up to a 3000 grit, which will just give it a nice polished look and make it look like polished stone. So now that this is here, I'm just gonna pour it out. Leave a little bit in the bucket in case I need more. You just kind of run it around, and this will kind of mix it a little bit more. You don't want to get it too close to the edges at the beginning because it'll run right over the sides. You want to make sure you get a nice, good coating on the middle part. Again, it's really important to have your table nice and level so all the... Now I'm just going to run a little down this. Because it's so hot in here, it's probably 85 degrees in here. It's really runnier than I normally would like it, which makes it just even more important to just have it really level. So I'm going to keep most of the material right in the middle, or not in the middle, but just not get it too much, too close to the edges until it starts to set up a little bit. And then I'll push it a little bit more to the edges and it'll just run over. You can kind of just, with your hands, just kind of help it, because when you have that surface tension, it tends to not want to move. So you can actually just kind of paint it on with your hands. Make sure I got it all covered. So when we mixed it, we introduced a lot of air into the material. And so now what we want to do is torch it just like we did to the first coat. And so I'm just going to go over it. All right, there we go.
We really like the way this countertop turned out. It's really subtle with just some gray swirls in it. And we think it's going to go really good in this van. We appreciate you watching this video. We'll see you in the next one.